Hello my dear students, in this lecture I will discuss about female pelvis, which is a very important topic from the examination point of view. Under female pelvis I will discuss its bones, joints, ligaments, landmarks and its diameters. So before starting the lecture, guys, I just first want to say that if you will find my video useful, then please do like to my video and also give your valuable comments. Your responses actually motivates me to make more videos for you guys. And if you guys have any kind of query or any kind of question in your mind, then please do ask me without any hesitation. I will definitely answer your queries. And if you are new at my channel or if you're not subscribed to my channel yet, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Now starting the topic with its definition. What is female pelvis? It can consider to be a basin shaped with hollow in its walls. Now what is the meaning of basin shaped? Means the female pelvis is like a large bowl or like a large container which is round and wide in nature with holes in its walls. There is another definition of female pelvis. The pelvis is a basin shaped structure that supports the spinal column or the spine or the backbone and protects the abdominal organs. Which abdominal organs? Such as the reproductive organs, large intestine and the urinary bladder. Now how this pelvis supports the spinal column or the spine? Because the two innominate bones of the pelvis are attached to the part of spinal column or the spine, such as the sacrum and the coccyx posteriorly. That's why it supports the spinal column or the spine. So as it is a bony structure, so it protects the internal organs, which I already explained, that is the reproductive organs, urinary bladder as well as the large intestine. This basin shaped structure or this pelvis has two parts which are separated by pelvic brim. So pelvic brim is situated in the middle, and above the pelvic brim, that is known as false pelvis, and below the pelvic brim, that is known as true pelvis. So as you can see in this diagram, this is pelvic brim, and above the pelvic brim, that is known as false pelvis, and below the pelvic brim, that is known as true pelvis. Now why it is known as false pelvis? Because it does not have any obstetric significance or importance, as it does not play any role during the mechanism of labor or during the delivery of the baby. It just only supports the pregnant uterus. While in the case of true pelvis, there are various diameters which are very important during the delivery of the baby, as if these diameters are less than average, then the baby might stuck inside the birth canal if the diameter of the true pelvis are shorter than average. So it plays an important role during the mechanism of labor. Next are the bones of female pelvis. So the pelvis is comprised or made up of four bones, such as two innominate bones, one sacrum and one coccyx. And each innominate bone consists of three parts, such as ilium, ischium and pubis. And while the one sacrum is made up of five fused vertebrae or bones. Vertebrae is also known as bones. And one coccyx is comprised up of, or it is made up of four fused vertebrae or bones. So here you can see in this diagram, these are two innominate bones, and this is one sacrum and this is one coccyx. So this is one single innominate bones. This part is known as ilium. This is known as pubis, and this is known as ischium. So this is one innominate bone. So the two innominate bones joins together with the help of certain joints and ligaments, and this is one sacrum which consists of five fused bones, and this is coccyx which made up of four fused bones. Next are the joints of pelvis. So there are four joints in the pelvis, such as two sacroiliac joints, the joints which are formed between the sacrum and the ilium. So as you can see here, this is the ilium, this is sacrum, and here the joint is formed between the ilium and sacrum, which is known as sacroiliac joints. So as this joint is formed on both sides of the pelvis, that's why there are two sacroiliac joints. Next is one sacrococcygeal joint. So the joint which is formed between the sacrum and the coccyx, that is known as sacrococcygeal joint. Next is one symphysis pubis. So here the joint which is formed between the two pubic bones, that is known as symphysis pubis. And this sacroiliac joints are actually strongest joints. Next are the ligaments of pelvis. Now what are these ligaments? These are fibrous connective tissues which are present around the joints. Now what is the function of these ligaments? These ligaments hold the joints of pelvis together. So basically these ligaments provide support to the joints. So under ligament, first ligament is sacroiliac ligaments. As the name suggests, these ligaments are present around the sacroiliac joint. So these ligaments pass in front of and behind each sacroiliac joint, means these ligaments are present anteriorly and posteriorly of each sacroiliac joint. So as you can see here in the diagram, these two are the sacroiliac joints, and sacroiliac ligaments are present in front of the sacroiliac joint as well as behind the sacroiliac joint. So this is the anterior view of the pelvis, and these are sacroiliac ligaments. Next is sacrospinous ligament. So as the name suggests, the word sacro indicates the sacrum and the word spinous indicates the ischial spines. So the ligament which connects the ischial spine to the lateral surface or to the side of the sacrum is known as sacrospinous ligament. Now where the ischial spines are basically located in the pelvis, here you can see these are the ischial spines and these are the part of ischium. So the ligament which connects the ischial spines with the lateral surface of the sacrum or the sides of the sacrum is known as sacrospinous ligament. So the sacrospinous ligament is present on the both sides of the pelvis. Next is sacrotuberous ligament. So as the name suggests, the word sacro indicates the sacrum and the word tuberous indicates the ischial tuberosity. So this is the ligament which connects the ischial tuberosity to the lateral surface or to the sides of the sacrum. Now where the ischial tuberosities are located in the pelvis. So as this is the ischium, so ischial tuberosity is the part of ischium, and here these are ischial tuberosities. So the ligaments which connects the ischial tuberosities with the lateral surface of the sacrum is known as sacrotuberous ligament. This also present on both the sides of the pelvis. Next is symphysis pubis ligament. So as the name suggests, this ligament is present around the joint which is known as symphysis pubis, which formed between the two pubic bones. So as you can see in this diagram, this is symphysis pubis, and there are total 4 symphysis pubis ligaments, such as one is present superiorly, which is known as superior symphysis pubis ligament, and one is inferiorly, which is known as inferior symphysis pubis ligament, and one is at anterior side while one at the posterior side. So total there are 4 symphysis pubis ligaments. And last one is sacrococcygeal ligament. So as the name suggests, the ligament which is present around the sacrococcygeal joint. So this ligament actually connects the sacrum to the coccyx. The sacrococcygeal ligament is also present on both the sides, such as anteriorly as well as posteriorly. So here you can see this is sacrum, this is coccyx, and anteriorly the sacrococcygeal ligaments are placed like this. These are lateral sacrococcygeal ligaments which connects the sacrum to the coccyx. while posteriorly the sacrococcygeal ligament looks like this. This is the sacrum and this is coccyx, and the lateral sacrococcygeal ligaments, which I already discussed. So here these are known as superficial posterior sacrococcygeal ligaments, while here this portion between the superficial posterior coccygeal ligaments, these are deep posterior sacrococcygeal ligaments. Next are the landmarks of pelvis. There are certain points on the pelvic brim which are called as landmarks. So there are total 9 landmarks which are present on the pelvic brim, which I will discuss one by one. So starting with the first landmark, which is known as sacral promontory. As you can see in this diagram, this is a pelvic brim. So starting from the posterior side of the pelvis, this is sacrum, and this portion of the sacrum is known as the sacral promontory, and this is the first landmark. After the sacral promontory, the second landmark is ala of sacrum, or the wings of sacrum. So here you can see these are the wings of the sacrum. So this is the second landmark, which is also known as ala of sacrum. After the ala of sacrum, the next landmark is sacroiliac joint. So after the ala of sacrum, next is sacroiliac joint, which is the third landmark. So where the sacrum meets with the ilium, that point is known as sacroiliac joint. After the sacroiliac joint, the next landmark is iliopectineal line. The word ilio indicates the ilium bone, while the word pectineal indicates the word pubis. So after the sacroiliac joint, this line is known as iliopectineal line. So as the word ilio indicates the word ilium, now why the pectineal word indicates the pubis here? As this line is going to join with the pubis, that's why this line is known as iliopectineal line. After the iliopectineal line, the next landmark is iliopubic eminence. So where the ilium and pubis meet, that point is known as iliopubic eminence, as this point is slightly protruded or bulged. So here you can see at this point the pubis meets with the ilium. So this point is known as iliopubic eminence, and this is the fifth landmark. After the iliopubic eminence, next is pectineal line. So after the iliopubic eminence, next is, this is pectineal line, and after the pectineal line, this is pubic tubercle on both the sides. Now what is pubic tubercle? So after the pectineal line, here you can see this is pubic tubercle. This area is slightly protruded, or this area is prominent, or we can say this area is bulged out. So after the pubic tubercle, there is pubic crest. So in the mid of pubic tubercle and symphysis pubis, this point is known as pubic crest. So after the pectineal line, there is pubic tubercle, and after that there is pubic crest, which is present in the mid of symphysis pubis and pubic tubercle, and at last there is symphysis pubis, the joint where the two pubic bones meet. So here this is symphysis pubis. So after the pelvic inlet, next is pelvic cavity, and pelvic cavity has anterior posterior diameter and transverse diameter. It does not have oblique diameter. So starting with the anterior posterior diameter, it starts from the middle border of the symphysis pubis. Let's assume this is the symphysis pubis. So from the middle border of the symphysis pubis to the sacral vertebra. as the sacrum consists of 5 bones, so between the second and third bone, or between the second and third sacral vertebra. So as you can see, this is the second and third sacral vertebra. So between the second and third sacral vertebra, this is the point. So from the middle border of the symphysis pubis till the sacral vertebra, which is between the second and third one, that is anterior posterior diameter of the pelvic cavity, which is 12 centimeter. Next is the transverse diameter of the pelvic cavity, which is also of 12 centimeter. So it is the distance between the two sacrosciatic notches. So starting with the true conjugate, this is the diameter which extends from the upper border of the symphysis pubis to the midpoint of the sacrum. So this is symphysis pubis. So from the upper border of the symphysis pubis to the mid of the sacrum, this diameter is known as true conjugate, and it is of 11 centimeter. Next is obstetric conjugate. This diameter extends from the middle border of the symphysis pubis to the midpoint of the sacrum, and it is 10 centimeter. So here you can see this is the mid or the middle border of the symphysis pubis. So from the middle border of the symphysis pubis to the mid of the sacrum, this diameter is known as obstetric conjugate, and it is measured from the inner side of the pelvis. Next is diagonal conjugate, and this diameter extends from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the midpoint of the sacrum, and it is 12 centimeter. Now this is the lower border of the symphysis pubis, and it is measured from the inner side of the pelvis. So from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the mid of the sacrum, this diameter is known as diagonal conjugate, and it is of 12 centimeter. Next is the transverse diameter of the pelvic inlet. It is the distance between the iliopectineal lines, and this diameter is 13 centimeter. So these are the iliopectineal lines. So the distance between the iliopectineal lines is the transverse diameter of the pelvic inlet, and it is 13 centimeter. Next is oblique diameter of the pelvic inlet. It extends from the sacroiliac articulation or from the sacroiliac joint to the iliopubic eminence, and it is 12 centimeter. So here you can see this is the point where the ilium meets with the pubis. So this is the point which is known as iliopubic eminence, and here the ilium meets with the sacrum, and this is known as sacroiliac joint. So the distance between the diameter which extends from the iliopubic eminence to the sacroiliac joint, this is the oblique diameter of the pelvic inlet. This is the right side, this is the left side, and this diameter can be taken from both the sides, and it is 12 centimeter on both the sides. Next are the diameters of true pelvis, which is also known as the lesser pelvis, while the false pelvis is also known as the greater pelvis. So the true pelvis has 3 parts, such as the pelvic inlet, pelvic cavity, and the pelvic outlet. So the lower part of the true pelvis or the lesser pelvis is known as pelvic outlet, while the point where the true pelvis is separated from the false pelvis is known as pelvic inlet, which we normally called as pelvic brim. So the pelvic inlet is also considered as the roof of the true pelvis, while the pelvic outlet is considered as the floor of the true pelvis, and the space or the area between the pelvic inlet and the pelvic outlet is known as the pelvic cavity. So starting with the pelvic cavity. The pelvic cavity has anterior posterior diameter, transverse diameter and the oblique diameter. So there are three anterior posterior diameters of pelvic inlet, such as the true conjugate, obstetric conjugate and the diagonal conjugate. So here you can see this is the sacrospinous ligament and these are sacroiliac notches. There is an indentation in the ilium bone. So these are the two sacroiliac notches. The distance between the two sacroiliac notches is usually 12 cm, but this diameter is not usually measured. So after the pelvic cavity, next is pelvic outlet. Pelvic outlet has also further two types, such as obstetrical outlet and the anatomical outlet. So the roof of the pelvic outlet is known as obstetrical outlet, while the floor of the pelvic outlet is known as anatomical outlet. So starting with the first one, that is obstetrical outlet. It has three types of diameters, such as anterior posterior, transverse and posterior sagittal diameter. So starting with the anterior posterior diameter. So it extends from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the tip of the sacrum. So the diameter which extends from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the tip of the sacrum, this diameter is known as anterior posterior diameter of obstetrical outlet and it is of 11 cm. Next is transverse diameter. It is the distance between ischial spines and this is also known as bispinous diameter and it is 10.5 cm. So the diameter between the two ischial spines is also known as the bispinous diameter or the transverse diameter of the obstetrical outlet and it is of 10.5 cm. Next is posterior sagittal diameter. It extends from the tip of the sacrum to the middle of the bispinous diameter and it is of 5 cm. So as you can see in this diagram, this is the tip of the sacrum and this is the middle of the bispinous diameter. This is the middle of the bispinous diameter. So from the tip of the sacrum to the mid of the bispinous diameter is the posterior sagittal diameter of obstetrical outlet. So it is of 5 cm. So after the obstetrical outlet, next is anatomical outlet under the pelvic outlet. So it also has three diameters, such as anterior posterior diameter, transverse diameter and posterior sagittal diameter. So starting with the anterior posterior diameter, so it extends from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the tip of the coccyx. So from the lower border of the symphysis pubis to the tip of coccyx, this is the anterior posterior diameter of the anatomical outlet and it is of 13 cm. Next is transverse diameter. It is the distance between the ischial tuberosity. It is also known as bituberous diameter and it is of 11 cm. So the distance between the ischial tuberosities is also known as the bituberous diameter and it is of 11 cm. Next is posterior sagittal diameter. It extends from the sacrococcygeal joint to the middle of bituberous diameter and it is of 8 cm. So here you can see this is the sacrococcygeal joint and this is the middle of the bituberous diameter. So the distance between the sacrococcygeal joint and the middle of the bituberous diameter is the posterior sagittal diameter of the anatomical outlet and it is of 8 cm. That's all about the female pelvis. I hope you all are clear with this topic, but still, my dear students, if you have any kind of query, then please ask me in the comment section. I will definitely answer your queries.